You are watching Shalom World News. I'm David Kerr from Lansing in Michigan, and here are your latest news headlines from around the world. Pope Francis could be discharged from a Rome hospital in the coming days after he was admitted with a respiratory condition on Wednesday. That's according to the Vatican press office. They say that the Holy Father has seen a marked improvement in his health after he received antibiotics for a bronchitis infection. The Pope was admitted to Gemelli Hospital for what was initially said to be a scheduled checkup. There he was diagnosed with bronchitis and given an antibiotic infusion, said the Vatican statement. Well, prior to being admitted to hospital, the Pope had used his weekly general audience to reaffirm his closeness to those most affected by the war in Ukraine. As a gesture of his solidarity, the Holy Father dispatched a truckload of essential supplies, including medicines and electricity generators, to the war-torn Ukrainian city of Kharkiv. It arrived on Wednesday. The delivery of supplies was organised by the Vatican's Dicastery for the Service of Charity. Donald Trump has become the first former US president to face criminal charges. New York prosecutors have been investigating the payment of hush money to a woman who claims to have had an adulterous affair with the president prior to his election to the White House in 2016. While the payment was legal, President Trump is alleged to have recorded it as a business expense. Falsifying business records is illegal in New York. The 76-year-old is now expected to appear in court to face the charges and enter a plea in New York next Tuesday. President Trump denies wrongdoing and the affair, saying the indictment is political persecution. At least 31 people have been killed after a passenger ferry caught fire in the southern Philippines. The Lady Mary Joy 3 ferry was travelling from Mindanao Island to Jolo Island in Sulu province when the fire broke out on Wednesday. 230 others were rescued thanks to the intervention of the Philippine Coast Guard and local fishermen. Lawmakers in the US State of Idaho are considering new legislation that would penalize any adult who helps a minor obtain an abortion without parental consent. The measure would create a new crime of abortion trafficking, barring adults from obtaining abortion pills for a minor and, quote, recruiting, harbouring or transporting the pregnant minor. Anybody convicted of breaking the law would face 2 to 5 years in prison. One of the sponsors of the bill is Republican Representative Kevin Andrus. He describes the legislation as being focused on parental rights. The bill has now passed the State House of Representatives in Idaho and will now be debated in the Republican-dominated Senate. If it is passed in the Senate, it will then go to the Republican Governor Brad Little for final approval. Meanwhile, West Virginia has become the latest US state to ban the prescription of hormone therapy and puberty blockers to minors who claim to be confused about their gender. The new rule will come into force in January of next year. Meanwhile, the state of Kentucky has also passed similar measures after lawmakers there overturned a veto that had been imposed by Democratic Governor Andy Beshear. Kentucky and West Virginia now become the 9th and 10th states to ban such chemical and medical interventions. The high-profile businessman Elon Musk has added his name to calls for the development of powerful artificial intelligence or AI systems to be temporarily halted for 6 months. The owner of Tesla and Twitter signed an open letter entitled Pause Giant AI Experiments, along with more than 1,000 other individuals, including Apple co-founder Steve Wozniak. The letter states that AI systems with human competitive intelligence can pose profound risks to society and humanity. It adds that powerful AI systems should be developed only once everyone is confident that their effects are positive and their risks manageable. The letter also calls for the governments of the world to intervene and place a moratorium on AI development if firms fail to cease all experiments. China's growing global influence poses a serious threat to international human rights. That's according to a new report by the risk and strategic consulting firm Verisk Mapplecroft, which suggests that the United Nations Human Rights Council is failing to counter the risks posed by China. The UN Human Rights Council is an intergovernmental body made up of 47 UN member states elected on a 3-year rotational basis. It has the stated aim of strengthening the promotion and protection of human rights globally. The new report, however, says that it has now become a battleground for competing standards, with China and allied member states showing signs of watering down international action and pushing their, quote, own brand of human rights. The Catholic charity Jesuit Refugee Services is calling upon the British government to close down Napier Barracks, a former military base converted into a migrant detention centre. The facility in the southern county of Kent was repurposed as accommodation for people seeking asylum in 2020. It houses single men who are in the early stages of the asylum process. In a new report entitled Napier Barracks, The Inhumane Reality, Jesuit Refugee Services record in-depth conversation with people who lived at the camp in 2022. The report labels conditions at the camp as deeply troubling and describes the site as bleak and run down, with a securitized setting and crowded accommodation, all of which it says is taking a serious toll on residents' mental health. New research has confirmed a dip in mass attendance in the United States since the COVID-19 pandemic. According to the findings by the Pew Research Center, only 4 in 10 US Catholics say they attend Holy Mass in person as frequently as they did before the pandemic. The findings also suggest a 14% rise in those who watch Mass online. Finally, Pope Francis has announced his prayer intention for the month of April. The Holy Father has asked that people pray and work towards a non-violent culture that values peace. The Holy Father's intention coincides with the 60th anniversary of the publication of Pope St. John XXIII's encyclical Pacem in Terris, or Peace on Earth. The Pope's Global Prayer Network, who promote his monthly prayer intention, have created a film to accompany this month's intention. In it, the Pope says that war is madness and beyond reason, stating that any war, any armed confrontation, always ends in defeat for all. Well, that's your latest news headlines for now. Do join us for more tomorrow. You can also join us at swnews.org for news updates. Shalom.